are at the Migrant Community Center, which is one of the projects of the anti-racism movement in Lebanon. We're currently in Beirut. And we're here to talk with Ali and Sami, who are going to tell us quite a lot about, or quite a bit, depending on how it goes, on how the Kafala system works in Lebanon. What is it? Why do people need to understand why it's such a big deal and why so many people are trying to obviously change it? We may talk about racism, about migrant communities in Lebanon, what they go through, and how our listeners can be involved, can get involved if they want. If they feel like they can do something about it, I would urge them to do so. So I guess we could start with Ali, given that you mentioned before about if you can explain to our listeners, like, what is the MCC, what is the Migrant Community Center, what does it do?
Great, thanks for having us. The anti-racism movement is a Lebanese NGO that exists to address institutional structural racism in Lebanon. It was started around 2010 by a group of activists who actually made videos about migrant domestic workers not being allowed into beach clubs and pools. And from that, a few years later, it became a registered NGO because the problem is so big and there's not enough effort being put into it. The migrant community centers are our biggest projects. We have three, Beirut, Junia, and Saida. And our Beirut center is the one that we're currently in now. The migrant community centers, or MCCs, are spaces where migrant domestic workers, migrant workers, and their communities can build their capacities, learn, simply have space to meet, because there's so little access to space for migrants and migrant workers. Start their own projects, launch their own initiatives, celebrate birthdays, but really the focus is on giving people a space and a chance to build their own capacity and advocate for their rights.
And Sami, how did you start with the MCC?
I don't know, I don't remember the real time. We have a crew for making a movie here. So by that time, the leader, the MCC leader, she came to support us, because we need someone that have to be like a backbone for the movie. We don't know anything, we don't have anybody here. So by that time, Farah was supporting us to like providing a place to meet or to rehearse the movie. And there was a center in Hamra. We start there. Because of that, we know each other, and we start coming to MCC, and we are getting be a member.
New members.
Yeah.
And did the movie ever get released?
We already finished the movie, but it is not coming out still. It is in process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the movie about, if you can ask?
Yeah, the movie is about domestic workers in Lebanon.
Okay.
How they live their lives, how they live with the employers, and everything, what is happening in Lebanon on domestic workers.
And obviously that's essentially what we're discussing. We want to discuss now. So the big word that many migrants or migrants who are trying to change things, have to deal with is the word Kafala, the Kafala system in Lebanon. What is the Kafala system? How can we explain it?
Do you want to start, or should I?
You can.
So the Kafala system, or the sponsorship system, is a set of administrative practices, not laws. There's no law in Lebanon that talks about this. A set of administrative practices that regulates how migrant workers come into the country, exist in the country, work in the country, and leave the country, basically. The way that it works is when someone from another country wants to come in as a migrant worker, they have to find a sponsor, often through, almost always through an agency in their home country, then connected to an agency in Lebanon. And they come in under their sponsor's name. What the system does is it ties every single aspect of a person's life to their sponsor and puts them at their mercy, at the simplest way to say it. So it's an unjust system in every aspect. What it means is that a worker comes in under their sponsor, their employer's name, and that sponsor basically has complete control over where they live, what they do. They cannot, without their sponsor's permission, they cannot break their contract except in very, very narrow circumstances in terms of what the standard unified contract says. So many workers don't have freedom of movement. They have no way to advocate for their rights, including days off, decent wages, decent living conditions, the ability to leave the house, the ability to look for other work, to travel, to have children, to organize, to unionize, to get healthcare beyond the very limited healthcare that they're provided. So it's an abusive system in all forms.
Yeah.
And what happens is people leave their legal situations or their documented situations very often because of how abusive the system is, and then get stuck in this area of illegality.
Yeah, because they need a sponsor to be legal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can talk about that more later. I say illegality between quotes, but I think that's a bit about it. Yeah.
Okay. In my opinion, the Kafala system is like bringing primitive slavery, makes like civilized slavery. Because if you are a domestic worker in Lebanon, it makes you feel like you are someone's property. You cannot do anything without their permission. You cannot go out without their permission. Even if you cannot eat, you cannot call, you cannot do anything that you have to have a right in, by nature. You cannot do anything. No, nature gives you a right, like a human right. It prevents to practice that right. Yeah. You cannot do anything by yourself. Let's say I want to go to somewhere. I have a resident permit, but when I go out from the house, I am afraid. If a policeman caught me on the street, he will ask me. Maybe I will answer him, but they will not listen. I have the right to go anywhere. It is a human right. If I am legal here, I have a right to go everywhere. If I am not a violent person. But here in Lebanon, you cannot do anything by yourself. You have to have a permission from your sponsor. Always make me that I am someone's property. Yeah. But it's not happening on me. But I always seeing too many Ethiopians, migrant domestic workers in the house, outside the house, because I am the leader of a group, Ethiopians community group, Maswat, yeah. Yes. In that group, people bring too many cases that related with the Kafala system. Even if they have a right, they cannot do. Let's say about the wage or the food, the facilities that they are promised when they are here. Even there is a contract, but if there is a contract, you have to know what you are signing on. Yeah. But they will not. They don't understand it because it is in Arabic and in English.
They don't translate it.
Yes, it's not translated. Even they didn't explain them what is their right and what is they don't have to do. They just sign and go.
So just to speak about the contract a bit more, in 2009 there was the introduction of this standard unified contract, it's called. Yeah. And it sounds very nice, right? It's supposed to be provided in every language, it's supposed to outline the workers' rights, etc., etc. It's almost never implemented. Yeah. A worker is lucky to get a contract even in Arabic, and even if the contracts were upheld, it's still very lacking. It still doesn't give workers basic human rights and basic freedoms, but it's mostly just a worthless piece of paper.
Yeah, no, in my opinion, even if there is a contract, if they implement that contract, if they are practicing that contract, maybe they will get some benefits, the domestic workers. Not more than in this situation, they just practice the contract, but nobody see it. Nobody implement that contract. That is a big problem.
Yeah.
They took them like they buy from from a supermarket.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a very well-known, common sight at airports. I mean, the only airport in Beirut to have a completely separate section for migrant workers who just arrive, and then they have to be there and wait for the sponsors to come. Yeah, and that's why, I mean, since we're talking about laws, that's why, if I'm not mistaken, one of the main demands of migrant activists especially is to be included in the labor laws, because as you said, Kafala is technically not a law, it's a system, let's say.
It's just a system.
Yeah, domestic workers are not included in Lebanese labor law, so that is a big demand. Again, the labor laws also need to be reformed,
Of course.
But it would be a very small and yet big step.
Yeah.
Because the contract, even if you were to look at that as the strongest piece of paper, still doesn't guarantee things like maximum working hours, a day off, etc., etc.
Yeah. One of the main effects, I guess, of the kafala system is the vulnerability of people. As you said, like, it makes them completely dependent, essentially, on the wishes or on the good nature, on the ill nature of the kafil, of the sponsor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we heard, and you said that you were somewhat involved in the case of Shamila recently, and it's one of those stories that actually, as you said, you mentioned before as well, like, they're actually very common, but we just don't hear about them so much unless there's some video that was taken or some something that went viral online, and for some reason some people speak about it. If you can tell us more about that.
Sure. So Shamila is a Kenyan migrant worker who now has been deported back to Kenya. We're recording this on a Friday. She was deported on Sunday.
Yeah.
Hi, Shamila. So Shamila and her friend, another Kenyan migrant worker, both women were walking down the street in Burj Hammoud in daylight. They were assaulted by an off-duty military officer. A mob gathered and joined the attack. So it was a mob attack. There's a video, there's about 2 minutes of the video that's very painful to watch. And she's not the only woman by any means to be attacked in that area of Burj Hammoud in Beirut more broadly. It was just filmed.
Yeah.
I think particularly black migrant women's bodies are very, very commonly seen as targets of verbal and physical harassment. But one reason why Shamila's story, we were able to get interest in it and news in it, is because it was videotaped, and because then both of the Kenyan women were detained, arrested and detained, along with just a couple other people in the attack, Lebanese people. But even though there was an ongoing court case, it's still ongoing in the military courts, Shamila was deported. Yeah. So violating her rights to be present for her trial. So because that deportation order came out, we were able to kind of highlight the reality in Lebanon for migrant domestic workers and migrant workers, which is if your papers are not in order, and she had an issue with her papers, with her residency and work permits, because she had left her sponsor over a non-payment issue. Yeah. If you're in Shamila's case, where you're attacked, or I can think of other cases, you're hit by a car, or you're stopped at a checkpoint, or you are the target of an additional layer of violence, you're the one who has to. The consequences are on you.
Yes.
You're the one who's imprisoned, you're the one who's deported, you're the one who's criminalized, everything. So Shamila's case is not at all unique, because that happens every day. We just don't see it because it's so normal. It doesn't go to the media because it's so normal.
And I heard that Shamila and the other Kenyan woman, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, they were in the court case, they are among the accused with the two other Lebanese men. So it's not even like the court recognized that she was attacked.
Correct.
They were attacked.
They were all charged as if they were participants in a fight.
In a fight, yeah.
As if a brawl broke out at like on a street in Hamra or wherever, and everyone was rounded up and put into jail to cool off. Like that's they're considering them participants in the fight, although they were clearly victims.
But they are
of an
not
attack.
even they are not attacking anybody.
No.
They were defending themselves. As you see, he was tidying their hair. They didn't even act to defend themselves. No, I don't know the reason that even if she is illegal here, if she doesn't have a paper, she is not a criminal.
No, but that's what the system does.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I think I want to say one more thing about Shamina's case. I think it shows the violence that is every day on the streets. And we're not even talking about what happens behind closed doors in the homes of sponsors, right? So we can go there. It shows the violence on the street. It shows the violence and the discrimination of Amn al-Am, of general security, and the courts, and everything else about the government. I mean, there's so many layers of violence that are just the essence of the Kafala system, and this shows it in all aspects, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is also one case. I'm related with because she is Ethiopian. So I am following every time if there is new information. I think it was viral on Facebook. Her name is Lensa.
Yeah.
But I think the government already says nobody post anything about Lensa. There is a rule, I think. Talks about Lensa, and we cannot post anything about Lensa
like
on Facebook.
Order.
They order something like that. But she is still in that
house.
house.
In that house.
They didn't even let her go out, and the Lebanese government didn't make her to be free to tell the truth or to tell the people, or the people concerned to know about her. They didn't let her to be free.
Since we're mentioning about Lensa, might as well
she is still now there.
Tell people what actually who is she, what happened, like what's her story.
Her story, she was abused in that house because she cannot resist the abuse. She tried to run away from the house, but the door always locked. Because the only way that she will run away with her friend is a balcony, and when she tried to jump, after she jumped, she broke her leg,
both legs.
Then she was screaming. By that time, people gathered and they caught her. Her friend, because she saw what happened to Lensa, she didn't jump. Then the video. We heard about her. Then my friends go to the hospital. Even in the hospital, they put someone not to allowed to get here to visit her Lensa. But they get the opportunity and they get inside. They record a video, and they just one of the person who were visiting Lensa was her auntie. Her auntie sponsor, I think she's working in a television station or somewhere else. She's a journalist, I think. So she sent it to the This is Lebanon Facebook page. They just post it on the Facebook. After that, too many things happen. They just let her stay at that house. Still, she's in that house. Too many things happen. We try to take her out from that house and communicated with the Ethiopian consulate, but nothing happened still.
I think what's really egregious in this case is
she is still sending a message that she has to go out from that house. She wants to go out from that house, but nobody allowed.
And she was even brought on television
with the daughter of the sponsor and the lawyer of the sponsor.
And essentially, I watched that clip. It's quite surreal to watch. She's essentially in the complete spotlight and has to say that she's fine and everything is good and nothing happened to her. And
completely different from the first video that she's recorded. It's like positive and negative.
And I mean, these are not, again, what do these cases have in common? It's that there was a video, there was something. I think that Like the danger of talking about the kafala system in relation to these big cases like this is that it's easy to say, there's one case of abuse,
Exactly.
there's one case of a deportation, it's about individuals. It's not, there's structural problems. There's structural problems.
Yeah.
I think no, here in Lebanon people will experience it and they don't care. No, everything it's happen every time. So they just.
It's so common.
Yes, everybody knows. No, everybody expect things like this. So they didn't excited when something happened like this.
Yeah.
It's just normalized in a way
Yeah.
that people don't question
Yes.
the way, though I say this in quotes, you can't see, the way things are, right?
Yeah.
A house with a certain amount of money will have a domestic worker. There's a room for her already built off the kitchen.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
about
the
a meter
maid-
wide.
the maid's room.
The maid's
The maid's
room.
room, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's a separate place for her to eat at a restaurant. She doesn't go into the pool. She sits in the back of the car, even if there's no one in the front.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
all of these things are so like you just see it every day. It's people don't question it in their mind. Like I hope that they do after listening to this.
It is just as I say, no, it is just like a common thing that they saw every time, every day, you know, in everyday life. People see domestic workers, you know, following their sponsor every time behind them with too many luggage or something, or with their children, or something with something. You know, people didn't focus on it because they already know, they already experience, you know, they will see something like this in everyday their life. They didn't ask even why people treat them like this. No, sometimes I am laughing, you know, people ask, I don't know, because they are insulting us or because they didn't understand from where we come from. They are asking, you know, something that they didn't have to ask, like is there a sun in your country, is there a lake or a sea in your country, something, a question, something like this. There are people asking a question like this.
Absolutely. It's what's really amazing if we look at it from a macro level is that the Lebanese themselves, we are so used to traveling everywhere for work. You know, like it's such a common. There are more, as we say, like there's more Lebanese outside of Lebanon than inside of Lebanon, and yet it's almost like we don't want to. I don't know what it is, but we don't want to understand. We don't want to ask ourselves questions as to how do we participate in the things that then we supposedly complain about. Obviously, we have it much better when we actually travel than the kafala system here. But yeah, it's. I wanted to mention, you briefly mentioned in the beginning that the anti-racism movement started, and I remember this campaign of going to a number of private beaches.
Yes.
And you filmed, if I remember well, essentially them not allowing, I forgot, I think an Ethiopian woman, she was, I think. It was the hell, I think.
Before the anti-racism movement was an entity, was a thing, a group of feminist activists in collaboration with migrant domestic worker activists. And I think that's important to say about ARM and MCC is that's really our core, right? Decided to try to expose again something that so many people see as normal. So they filmed these attempts to go to the beach clubs and filmed what happened when black women were turned away, right? Black migrant women were turned away.
They were being told like there's no more room in the beach.
Exactly. Just blatant lies. And I think what those videos did was it showed the racism that's part of the system as well. And there's nothing about the kafala system that talks about beach clubs. That's another layer of racism in society.
This thing, it goes back to just how widespread it is. You know, it's, as you said, like there's no law. It's I hesitate to say it's cultural because I don't like to use that term, but it's definitely not being challenged. It's definitely not being, or at least enough, that it becomes so widespread and normalized, as you said.
I want to go back to what you said before, and Sami, I want your perspective on this too.
You gave it to me.
You talk and then I talk after.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm your secretary, remember? We go to meetings together and I take notes for Sami.
We are making some documentary with someone that come from Melbourne University. She's a doctor. Her name is I just forget it. She's an Indian woman. She is researching in domestic workers. So she is trying to understand what is health care here in Lebanon for domestic workers and how they live, in the society. So, by that time, I was recording my camera, and when she tell us, one of the women, she married an Egyptian man, and she has 2 sons from him. So once they go to piscine, they try to get into that. I think it's a hotel in
Beirut?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is a hotel or something. It has a piscine. So on the entrance, they let the husband and they let them in the 2 children and they stop her. When he asks them why you didn't let her get in, they told it's not allowed to let in the domestic workers.
They assumed she was a domestic worker.
Yes. No. They didn't even ask him who is she.
They just assumed.
Yes, he was making a problem on the door, on the entrance. They are fighting. I don't know what happened at the end. The minister of the hotel comes and he apologized for what happened at that entrance. They let her in.
And they only apologized because they found out she's Australian.
Yeah.
I would assume.
And probably because a man
exactly,
said you made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But always, let's say, if it is a hotel, always accusing the man who makes the problem on the door. But they have to accuse the system, not only the man.
Exactly.
Because they didn't tell them to, if they didn't tell them to stop the domestic workers or the colored people or the other than Lebanese or some white people, they will not stop.
Exactly.
They will let them in. Let's say Hamra. If you go Hamra, we can go anywhere. We can get in every restaurant, or everywhere in Hamra. Nobody will ask you. But if you go to the Juni or somewhere else, if you go to somewhere, migrant domestic workers is not that much populated, they will ask you. Even in my opinion, I don't like to go restaurant or cafe or something because I'm not relaxed. Someone when he want to go to a hotel or somewhere else to relax or to chill, he will not think that something happens at that place. Let's say I'm going to drink a coffee or a tea somewhere, but everybody is watching you. They will not let you to be relaxed. Why they are watching me? I'm not that much different. I don't have a difference, except my cut.
Yeah. But you're out of the context that you're
Yes.
supposed to,
Yes,
again, quotes, you're supposed to be in.
There are shops, clothes shops. When we get in from the entrance, they are telling us we cannot afford what they are selling in that house. Maybe the maximum amount for that the clothes in their house is $100. But how can we cannot afford the $100 clothes? They will not let us get it.
Yeah.
By that time, I will be angry and I will insult them. I will use some bad words.
I think to go back to your question of why it is how it is, which is I don't have a perfect answer.
Yeah.
But
there's no perfect answer.
Yeah, but I think people just we don't know exactly, but there's at least 300,000 migrant domestic workers in Lebanon. Women from across Africa, across Asia, right? They're the reason the country functions.
Exactly.
Their labor is the reason that the country functions, and it's so devalued because one, it's care labor, it's reproductive labor, it's taking care of the house, of the children, of the elderly. It's doing all of these jobs that are viewed as less than, lower than, that were not paid for so long, that are still unpaid in most households across the world, right? This labor is, the wages are less, and the women are from Africa and from Asia. And men are here doing other kinds of jobs that similarly devalued. So this is the labor that runs the country, but it's seen as so much less than. People are not viewed as people.
Yeah.
It's obviously much more complicated than that, but
in many ways, like one of the, and this might be just an impression, you can correct me, but one of the few things, or maybe the only thing that's really been trying to really change things are migrants organizing themselves, essentially. Like social media definitely is playing some role. Like this is Lebanon, you mentioned it before. I wonder if you feel it's probably maybe too soon to see any, how long have you been here? Have you seen any actual, I don't know if I'm gonna say change, but you see what I mean?
Yeah, but I didn't change, I didn't say anything, still now. The only thing I see, it is, I think, because of the NGOs, because of the activists, effort, they are trying to change everything. I see one change. If you have a resident permit, before, when I travel to my country, and if I am legal here, when I come back, I have to stay until my sponsor comes. But now, if I have a resident permit, nobody will stop me. I will just go out like any passengers. We cannot say it is a change, because there are too many things. Always I'm asking myself, let's say the system makes things critical like this, the Kafala system. Why the people they are not limited with the system? Their thought is free. Why they think that migrant domestic workers are not human beings, or why they didn't see them like people? Okay, the system it has a limitation or something that will make a limitation, but the people's thought, why they think like that? Why they put their position like they are living with system, by the system. They are not living with by the system. The system will protect them, the citizen of Lebanon. But they can think, they can treat the people like themselves. Let's say they will not be their family, but they can treat them their family. But I don't know why they think like this.
I don't have an answer. I don't have one answer. There are so many different ways to try and wonder why the Lebanese themselves aren't, as you said, trying to change things from within. But
I think it's not just a Lebanon problem, right? The Kafala system exists across the region, and it connects to where people are coming from as well, right? The countries that they're coming from. So this is not an isolated thing. It's not it's about the global capitalist structure also. But I mean, to go back to the organizing question, I think, I don't know, I don't live this like you do, Sami, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am. But I think that I don't know if there's more organizing, but at least it's a bit more visible. And maybe it's just visible to those of us doing the work, I'm not sure. A big barrier to change is that, again, because domestic workers are not included in Lebanese labor law, they don't have the right to organize and unionize. And there was an effort to create a union several years ago.
Exactly,
it was never recognized in the end by the Lebanese state. There are so many other groups that people don't talk about. Groups, we work with many of them at MCC. Sami and Masawat are a fantastic example of...
How many people are in Masawat?
Hundreds.
Now we are something like 200 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, before we were too many, but most of the people go to quit.
You should talk about the work of Masawat, not me, but what I see from Masawat and other groups is communities dealing with the worst consequences of the kafala system themselves. And finding when workers leave their sponsor's home or their employer's home because of abuse or 5 months with unpaid wages or no food or whatever else, it's the migrant worker-led groups that do the most frontline work. I mean, the NGOs get a lot of credit, but I think the organizing done by migrant worker-led groups is responsible for 90% of this work minimum. And where we have seen success, and I'm looking more at other countries to be honest, but where we've seen success in demanding better standards, not complete reform or abolishment of the Kafala system, but better standards, is where organizing movements in countries of origin where people are coming from are demanding change, as well as groups in the countries where people are working.
It's
like
both.
Both. Like the Philippines, it's very known in Lebanon that Filipino workers get a higher wage. Why? Because their embassy is stronger.
Yes.
Why is their embassy stronger? Because there's so many, they call them overseas workers. There's so many overseas workers in the Philippines that have organized in the Philippines and other countries and have said, no, we deserve better. We have human rights.
Yes.
It's still, people use that example and then are like, the Filipinos are fine. They're not fine.
No,
there's still terrible conditions.
Yeah.
But that is what I see growing a bit more
Yes.
of these cross-border conversations. But it's still like, that's not the only solution to this, right?
No, of course
as
not.
long as the system exists, it's not going to be fixed.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the government has successfully in many ways repressed attempts to unionize. Sujana and Rose were deported at the end of 2016, I think, as one example, because they were involved, if I'm not mistaken, again with we're trying to set up this union of migrant workers, and it was not allowed despite the fact that they met all of the legal criteria to set up a union.
So Lebanese people.
Of course.
Of course, that was not the reason that they were deported on paper. And that's what we see again and again, right? The General Security has also deported women with children.
Yes.
That was documented quite well as well. But that's not the reason on paper. It's because of an issue with the papers or because you're employed in a different capacity than your visa says, which could simply mean that you work and cleaning another house for 2 hours on the side, or you don't live with your sponsor. I mean, all of these things. But with Sujana and Rose, everyone knows why they were deported, but that's not what was written.
They are preventing the country picture.
Yes.
The only thing they are doing it is because, but they cannot, because by this time the social network, it's like television or something, more than television. People will get information within a fraction of seconds. So people talk about Lebanon, and the people around the world will listen and see what's happening here. But they are trying to cover what is happening in Lebanon. As you mentioned before, here before there was no a community or a group or something like that, to protect each other, to support or to help each other. But
even have a space.
There is no, even the law will not allow you to create something like that, a group or a community without permission of or a supporting of your consulate or embassy or something like that. That's why we are gathering under MCC, anti-racism movement. Now we are not even they have to come to Maswat. If they get the opportunity, they have to make a little group in their surrounding, wherever they are, to support each other and to do something for others. Otherwise, we cannot survive. By this situation, the Ethiopian government says it is closed to come to Lebanon, but there is a direct flight from Ethiopia to Lebanon. That is a big problem. Let's say minimum per day from 40 up to 300 people comes to be domestic workers in Lebanon.
Because it's a business.
Yes, it's a business. Our government selling the people to get dollars, the foreign exchange, and here the recruit agency, they are working for their life. for surviving. It is a business.
Yeah,
So,
there's
but in
definitely-
the middle, people are disappearing. We don't know where they are going. No, let's say there are houses asking to get domestic workers, but how many people have domestic workers in their house? We are too much. According to the population, the domestic workers are too much. Let's say in one house 2-3 domestic workers. No, everybody have one domestic worker in their house. But the other, where are they go? We are asking this, but nobody answer. So the only way that we support ourselves is working with NGOs that we are working like now. The activists in NGOs, they are I don't know, they are talking like everything is happen on themselves. They are standing, they are talking just like me. They think happening every happening on themselves. They are standing with us, they are talking just like us, they are acting just like us. Because of that, people are gathering and making something that for supporting each other. And it is gradually developing. People are willing to make a group or take a community. But still we have a problem. In Ethiopian community, we have a problem to make a community because it's not allowed. They didn't give us the opportunity to create a community here.
So yeah, I guess like final thoughts of what you hope people can actually, what people should be doing, especially if they're in Lebanon, obviously if they're Lebanese.
Yeah, great question. I'll answer it in two ways.
Yeah.
The first, I think, is how we think about the problem.
Yeah.
And the second is what you can do, because we want to end on a take action note. I think in how we think about the problem, what I've seen sometimes when I talk to my friends about this who don't work at MCC or don't work in a similar space is they hear these stories, they see Shamila, they see Lensa in the media, maybe they heard screams from someone's neighbor's house and they think, okay, all right, I know the Kafala system is bad, these women are victims, but my family doesn't do this.
Exactly.
We're the girl in our house, she's one of us. We treat her like family. So there's us, we're good, we treat her well. She gets to go out on Sunday.
Yeah.
She goes and sees her friends, but she comes back, we protect her, we don't want anything bad to happen to her. We have to protect her, and the victims, oh haram, it's they're victims of a bad system. And I think both of those narratives further do the damage of the kafala system, of the government, in that they still don't see migrant domestic workers and migrant workers as people, right? You're a victim or you're the girl in our house who we have to protect. And that's not the reality. People are organizing, people have their communities, people have families, people have goals, people have families back home. I mean, like, it's so silly to kind of repeat this list, but I feel like it needs to be said. So I worry that people hear this, people hear about violations, and then they think victim and not me.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people listening to think about the things that you do every day, that you see every day, that maybe you don't do, but your aunt or your teta or somebody does. We were talking about this before. If you have a domestic worker in your house, does she sit in the back of the car? Does she eat with you? Where does she sleep? Does your employer regulate where you sleep? Does your employer give you one day off or more? Does your employer care what you do when you're done with your work, or is it your own business? Does your employer regulate when you call your family? Does your employer understand that you have your own interests and leisure time? I mean, all of these things. Does your employer just call you the girl? Think about how your own work conditions and then how you're treating somebody who is your employee. Rant over. Second, how you can get engaged. Sami can also, or how you can take action, I guess. Besides having these difficult conversations with your friends and your family, if you're interested in hanging out with us at ARM or MCC or Masawat or other groups, we always take volunteers. We have free classes for our members language classes, capacity building, about a whole range of things, fun activities like dance or video editing or how to make a radio project. If you want to volunteer your time and you want the experience to learn directly from people, I think our volunteers probably learn more than they teach. You're welcome to connect with us, and you'll have our contact details below. You can, of course, donate on our website, and donations go to our center's daily activities and also to case management work. And you can share as much as possible.
Yeah.
What else do people do?
I hope things always happen in here. We are talking always about Lebanon, so people have to listen. We are talking about their country. What is happening in this country it is their responsibility. They have to keep their country's name. They have to be jealous. If someone mentions their country in a bad way. So migrant domestic workers are just like other people. So they don't need anything too much. They want just treated like them, like a human being. They have to practice the contract. They have to see what is saying the contract. If they are working with the contract with the domestic workers, nothing will happen. So, in my opinion, it is their country. I know our Ethiopians, domestic workers, have problems. We have too many problems. But if they treat them like a human being, they will not be that much mad. So they have to keep their country's name, as it is, keep it good way. It is their responsibility. They don't have to expect from the neighbor or expect from the other people. They have to start respecting their country. They have to respect. They have to take a measure for the responsibility for them.
That's very well said.
Can I just add one thing as well?
You are jealous,
Jealous?
Yes.
And why am I jealous?
Because you are going to add something after I.
I'll give you the last word. Don't worry. I missed something before. I'm sorry, Sami. I'm just gonna stop talking. I think what I talked about and what you talked about, I think are both things that I hope people do. But I think also I hope people take a step more, which is to look at the system as a whole, and if people are interested in getting involved in an activist way, in an action way, to try as much as possible to follow the demands of migrant worker groups themselves, right? And to do the kind of work that is not as sexy, but if we're having a protest, to take care of the kids so that their parents can go out on the street. If you're interested in having these kind of conversations, this is also something that our volunteers at MCC and ARM do. But I think if we had more solidarity actions like that, it would also allow people who are most affected to have more time and more space and more resources to be leading this. And now Sami will say many things, so he has the last word.
The last word.
Thank you. I was finished.
No, you have to say something now.
No. I try to close it, but you are opening it.
Sorry. Cool.
No, I mean it's what happens when we're talking about something that's so Yes. Okay. Thank you both so much for this.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes, but I didn't thank you because you are inviting me in this podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.